Oh, I accidentally hit the go live button just now because after all, it's we're waiting for Anthony to come back. But yeah, well, welcome back everybody because it's never a boring week in Rangers land. I of course let me get the nameplate down. I can't. Why is it taking so long for me to get these on? I of course Mark Williams, your host, and here is Mr. John Volkowski, my illustrious co-host.
We are both more organized and more highly functional than the New York Rangers front office. Well done.
Yeah, because we're starting off because we've already been commenting with you guys pre-live stream, and this one, Mike, you're 100% right on that. If it's about Libor Hayek, then this is completely crazy. But we're going to be going through all that right now. So as we wait for Anthony to come back, we're going to start off with the news. Vitali Kravtsov did not make the opening night roster. He refuses a demotion to Hartford, and their team's going to allow him to seek a trade. Now, I always find that funny, Filk, because it's not like the player can dictate where he goes.
In this case, the player can dictate where he goes. And in this case, the player is right. And there are a lot of fans that I've seen on all platforms of social media that are blindly defending this organization for screwing it up with yet a second top 10 pick for the second year in a row. Okay, so if you're going to turn around and tell me that they screwed up both times with Lias, okay? Lias wasn't a great pick. I've said that in the past. It was a panic pick. They missed on Pettersson. And then you're going to tell me that they not only screwed up with him, but they screwed up with Kravtsov too. When does it start to become an indictment on this front office? When?
Well, part of the problem is
it's a boy cried wolf situation. Enough of it. Enough. Stop defending them.
I'm not defending them. I'm just taking all angles.
Several times.
But again, I was upset about this yesterday because, again, you had to run out Kravtsov. We remember when we had Guntoten and Granny come on Saturday. I was going to put on Sunday. I was going to put on the video of that. And I'm like, yeah, you cut Kravtsov, you better have a trade in place. They cut Kravtsov. There's no trade in place.
And they sent them down. And you know what? And the worst problem is that this organization has its priorities ass backwards. And I was just saying this before we went on, but the minute that they signed this guy on the back of my shirt, Artemi Panarin, they made this rebuild, or rebuild if you want to put that in quotation marks, because they accelerated this to no extent. They've made this all about speeding everything up and winning instead of the development of the players that they put at the forefront of that letter. When they sent out that letter in February of 2018, they told us that we are focusing on the future, that our rebuild was our number one priority. How is a rebuild your number one priority when you're playing Dryden friggin' Hunt in your top 9? Don't tell me that, because you're not going to sell me oceanfront property in Kansas. You're not going to do it, Chris Drury. You're not going to do it, Gerard Gallant. I'm not stupid. I was born in a day, and it wasn't yesterday, and I'll tell you that you can go to hell right now if you think you're going to pull the wool over my eyes on that one, because that ain't the case. There's something going on behind the scenes with this team. And whether it's the indictment of them screwing up with picks left and right, or whether it's the players that they're selecting and they're not getting the character issues that they're drafting them for down correctly and doing their research properly, or whether it's the players themselves, they are losing in the end. It's their fault. It falls on them. It's not the players. It's them. You cannot have Kakko, Filip Chytil, Julien Gauthier, Lias Andersson, Vitali Kravtsov twice, and others go and complain to various media outlets that something's not right with this organization. Something's wrong. It needs to be addressed. Whatever it is, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's Chris Drury, because Chris Drury seems to kind of just let everything go. Whether it's Glenn Sather, who's magically playing Metallica's Master of Puppets as he's pulling the strings of everybody in the damn organization from above, or whether it's James Dolan himself that says, I want playoffs now, and he's just pushing everything to the wayside, just like he does with the Knicks. James Dolan, you can just take a hike, by the way. Please do. Just leave your money and take a hike, because this organization was so much better off when your hands were off of it. So you know what? I don't know what's going on anymore. I don't have an idea. I at some point I thought I did, but you thought that it was a good idea to play games with your number 2 prospect, your top forward prospect, and you think it's an even better move to put Dryden Hunt, a fringe NHL player. Where are your priorities? Where are your priorities here? They're nowhere to be found, because this is a joke. This is an absolute joke.
Okay. But
don't tell me to shut up, by the way, guy. I don't know who you are, but don't tell me to shut up.
Who?
There's some idiot in the comments telling me to shut up. Don't tell me to shut up.
Yeah. There's not really a shut up button on us. So it's just, does it ever kind of make you think that Gerard Gallant is probably the freshest pair of eyes on this? And it's not exactly like he was getting wowed by Vitali Kravtsov.
Vitali Kravtsov played better than Julian Gauthier and Dryden Hunt while being hurt in the preseason.
Okay. I mean,
I don't understand where the argument is that Dryden Hunt is a better fit for this team than Vitali Kravtsov. I don't understand how you can say that you're prioritizing the future when you're putting on a fringe NHL player on your roster. I get it. They wanted to move Buchnevich because of the fact that they had to with the Kreider extension. Then on top of that, Jacob Trouba's dumb contract that was given out by Jeff Gorton. You know what? Maybe they don't want Kravtsov playing bottom 6 minutes. Maybe they don't. But how are you putting Dryden Hunt in this lineup? And if it's top 6 or bust for Vitali Kravtsov, what does that tell you about the way that this organization is developing players? You're going to carry 8 defensemen on the roster, and one of them is Libor Hayek, who is
one of them is Libor Hayek. And I got to stop on that and kind of go with that. And again, it goes back to this, because if you're going with Libor Hayek, as I said before, you have Nils Lundqvist, you have Matthew Robinson, you have Tom Marino, you got Braden Schneider, a litany of defensemen who have better potential than Libor Hayek. And it can't just be, we got to salvage something out of the McDonough trade, because they already did. They got Nils Lundqvist. So it can't just be that. You know what? Brett Howden didn't pan out. Libor Hayek didn't pan out. You don't sacrifice one pick for another one. You don't
also do that to justify a mistake, to save face. You don't do that. That's not how you organize a team. That's not how you run a team. Take the mistake, take the L, and move on from that trade. Cut ties. Libor Hayek is terrible. If you are worried about losing Libor Hayek to waivers, then this front office is more stupid and deserves far less credit than anyone has given them so far. It's terrible. It's a joke.
And again, there's been worse situations where the player has gone back to the team and continued to play. Look no further than Vladimir Tarasenko right now in St. Louis, although that's a guy that had an established relationship. This is a rookie that's been jerked around now by 2 GMs and 2 team presidents. So, but Kravtsov felt he was ready to come here almost from day one. He didn't understand when they cut him with David Quinn, and now he kind of doesn't understand it right now. There has to be some transition with the North American game. There's got to be things that Gerard Gallant saw. I got to say it like that, because I can't match Filk's intensity right now. It's just not possible. He's so far beyond me.
What could Gerard Gallant have seen in Dryden Hunt? I watched all the preseason games. I was able to go back and watch the Ranger Islander preseason game. It was on the next day.
As a matter of fact, Dryden Hunt had an assist on Kravtsov's goal.
Yeah. Why is it that Vitali Kravtsov is getting the shaft but somebody like Dryden Hunt is in the lineup. And then why is Dryden Hunt in the lineup over Julien Gauthier, who Gallant said also outplayed Kravtsov? Which I'm not – I don't buy that either. Listen, I'm not saying that Vitali Kravtsov was the best player in this team in the preseason. But
you know what?
I'm really not trying to say that. But at the same time, how are you going to tell anybody that Dryden Hunt and Julien Gauthier clearly outplayed him to the point where he deserved to be sent down, and you're not sitting Dryden Hunt in a press box right now? Like, listen, if it was the Tom Wilson thing and you wanted to just play them for a game, and you told Vitali Kravtsov this, said, listen, this is a numbers thing. We're sending you down for one game. We brought all these guys in to combat Tom Wilson, so Tom Wilson doesn't hurt any of more of our star players. Okay, fine. I understand it. Jared Tenorti's clearly in the lineup for that reason over Nils Lundqvist. I get that. And I've said that. They were brought in here for this purpose, and really this purpose, to play against the bigger, heavier teams, and especially Tom Wilson. But at the same time, you can't put Dryden Hunt in your top 9. That tells me, okay, hey, we're just gonna put some fringe NHL player in our top 9 because we really don't have a clue of what we're doing, and we're gonna make clowns of ourselves just so we can go after Tom Wilson in game 1.
And now we're joined, of course, by our third member of the party, Mr. Anthony LaRocco.
What's going on, gentlemen?
Well, flashed up your banner, but it was already still had all the graphics on. But we're going on the Vitali Kravtsov story. And what are your thoughts on that, Anthony?
I heard a little bit of Filk when I was waiting outside, and I agree with him.
Pretty sure the deaf would have heard Filk.
Fired up, but I agree with him. It's piss poor. It's piss poor asset management. You're talking, not counting Kakko, Lafreniere, count them as graduated. Your best forward prospect that you picked, what, ninth overall,
eighth.
You can't miss on that. It's a wasted pick, and they handled it wrong, all because they didn't want to risk putting Libor Hayek or Dryden Hunt on waivers. I mean, it's ridiculous. This kid has offensive potential to be a really good player, and now it's wasted because they're gonna trade him. And what are they gonna get in return for him? I mean, they're not, like I said before, they're not really gonna get much, and it's just bad. It's bad all around. It's Chris Drury really handled this poorly, and the mind blowing thing to me is they already experienced this 2 years ago when he went back to Tractor. The guy doesn't want to really play in the AHL, so. This was an issue back then. Why in God's name did they think, okay, well, after trading Buchnevich and implying that there's a bigger role for him on the team, why in the right mind would they think that it would be okay to demote him to the AHL again? I don't understand it.
Quinn Hughes.
I got to agree with that. And that's one of those things you knew what was going to happen. You either had to have a trade in place or not, because the player was not going to go. We all know this, whether or not he should or he shouldn't have.
Here's another thing that nobody's talking about. Something that nobody's talking about right now is that the KHL is clearly a better league than the AHL at this point. The level of talent over there is here compared to the AHL, which is about here. So why did they think that it was a good idea to send a player down who was unhappy there in the first place to an inferior league when you could have just let him go home and say, hey, you know what? You're probably not going to make this roster. We're going in a different direction. Let us send you back to Russia. You go play in Russia. You marinate over there. Look at the other players that have played over there for years before they came over. Artemi Panarin, the reigning Calder winner, Kirill Kaprizov, Evgeny Kuznetsov, who also played with Tractor, funny enough.
3 years, I believe he played there.
Vladimir Tarasenko. I mean, I'm sure I could probably think of other players that have played over there for years. Just those 4 off the top of my head. And they've become star-level players, if not elite. In the case of Panarin and Kaprizov, elite-level players. Sure, Kaprizov has only had 1 year, but he was playing at a very, very high level. But why would you not follow that recipe instead of rushing this kid over stupidly, again, like they did with Lias Anderson?
Well, this is year 3. So,
I mean,
but that's what I don't get. And how can you not? And then how are there these fans out there that are sitting there and justifying and attempting to justify every single move this organization makes as if they're above reproach? You have a rookie general manager who made a really bad trade of Pavel Buchnevich and has signed some other questionable deals in Barclay Goodrow and Patrick Nemeth. And now all of a sudden this guy's above reproach because what? You're xenophobic and you don't like Russians?
Well, let's not go exactly that far.
I think
that's what it feels like.
I think you have to be cognizant to the fact that a lot of Russian players, especially the younger ones, have no interest playing in the AHL, as I said in the Facebook Messenger, riding buses, making peanuts, not knowing the language, adjusting to the Western way of life, where they could just go back to Russia where they're comfortable, play in a better league, and make more money. It doesn't make any sense, and the Rangers should have known this was going to happen, or should have seen this coming when they sent him down to Hartford. It's clear as day, and you look at. It goes back to Yevgeny Dadonov, played at Florida for a while, struggled, toured around with them. He went back to Russia. He came back. But the point is, that's what happens with these Russian players. They go back home if you send them to the AHL. Yeah, sure, there's exceptions to the rule. Shesterkin didn't sulk. He went there, played in the AHL. And that it does occur. But for the most part, Nikita Filatov, Mikhail Grigorenko, these guys go back to Russia because they don't want to play in the AHL. And it's something that the Rangers really, really handled poorly. And like I said, now it's a ruined pick because, like I said before, they're not going to get like a top prospect back for him, being it's out in the open that he wants out. Honestly, their best case scenario is it's a situation when he gets traded for another struggling younger player. But it comes a point where. Do you really want to take on another? I'm not going to say headache, but do you really want to take on another young guy who hasn't lived up to the draft hype or status? Like Barrett Hayden was a good example that Filk brought up the other day. But in Arizona, granted they're a bad team, he hasn't really showed much. So it's a case of, I guess, where if the guy wants out, maybe you might as well do it. But the point is, the Rangers blew this because it's a wasted top 10 pick.
I think it's more on the player in this situation, in this particular regard. Yes, he was jerked around. They basically said, you're going to be on this roster. We have a place for you. And who knows? Maybe he did not perform as well as they wanted him to, or maybe other guys were impressive. I know, Phil, you don't want to hear that one. I'm actually having trouble believing it because you see all the world of potential. We saw all the highlights of Vitali Kravtsov for the last few years, him going bar down off the goalie's ear on the backhand. Remember that?
Yeah, that's not even the point though. The point is that they asked him to do all these different things. They asked him to bulk up. He gained size. They asked him to work on his defense. He worked on his defense and clearly got better. They asked him to work on his board game. He got better. They asked him to work on his overall game away from the puck. He got better. And what is good enough? What is good enough for them?
And you know what? Who cares if Dryden Hunt outplayed him in camp? Okay, sure, maybe he did, but look long term. What is Dryden Hunt?
Exactly.
He's not a long term piece. What? So what? He'll play a better grinding game on the third line. Maybe be a little better defensively. What about a year from now? 2 years from now? Kravtsov has the ability to be a good offensive player. Dryden Hunt's not going to automatically just become this guy who scores 25 goals and wins the Selke Trophy. I mean, this is just I'm disgusted. This is just it's bad.
Another thing is Igor Shesterkin took the demotion to Hartford, lit it up down there, and by January was called up and basically owned the Rangers net. So you could have gone that route.
But these are all apples to oranges situations, though. You can't say that, just because he's Russian and he got sent down, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. Forward and goaltender, yes. The depth charts and the way that it works and the opportunities, everything is different. It's different situationally. Not only that, but I believe that LK398 is somebody I follow on Twitter. And he actually made a great post earlier on today, if that is correct. Lucas, if that's you, then you made an excellent, excellent point earlier on today on Twitter that I saw. And the point that he made was that it's 2021. Somebody has got to wake up and understand that third liners are not all checking players and checking only players anymore like it was in 1998. It's not the same game anymore. Skilled players play on third line. The Buffalo Sabres of 2006 and 2007 had skilled players on their third lines that could play. You have to have 4 lines that can play hockey. Your third line is not going to be Detroit's grind line anymore. That's not how it works in today's NHL. And a lot of fans don't understand this. And they defend the organization because of it, because they've been hammered into their heads for 20, 30, 40 years, however long they've been watching, that your checking lines should be lines that are almost devoid of skill, but are good at checking. They're physical, they fight, they take penalties, and so on. That's not how it works anymore. It's not it.
Yeah, the new template is Tampa Bay and the Gord, Coleman, and Barclay Goodrow line. That's what the new template is. People that can grind it out, defend, and put the puck in the net.
That's exactly what you want on the third line. Why would you not want Vitali Kravtsov playing with somebody like Barclay Goodrow who can teach him these things? FIlip, good young center. You could have had that as your third line, and that would have been a really good third line. But no, you decided that you wanted Dryden Hunt, whose worth in value to this organization is shit going forward and over a top 10 pick.
And look at the equivalent. The Islanders are playing Oliver Wahlstrom on a third line with JG Pajot. It would have been a similar situation, and there's nothing wrong with a skilled forward like that playing on the third line.
Bingo.
And by the way, that's one of those things I can't help but shake my head about and go, gee, I'm envious of you right now, Anthony, because we're still going to do our season preview show on who's going to win the awards, who we think is going to win the cup, everything else. But we get this monkey wrench thrown in there, and we did. If you like that video, we got a lot more. So check out any of these that are right over here. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
Your ideas are intriguing to me, and I wish to subscribe to your newsletter.